Imagine taking your entire annual marketing budget, right?
Okay.
And you just hand it over to a digital media vendor. But you know that, statistically speaking, up to 70% of the professionals they promised you'd reach, they just don't exist.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, they don't hold the roles they claim to hold. And the crazy thing is, that isn't a scam. It's not some huge exaggeration.
No, it's really not. That's actually just the accepted industry standard for B2B email marketing right now.
Exactly. We just, accept it as the cost of doing business. But what if a super niche, historically kind of overlooked sector of the tech world actually solved this?
Right, like 2 decades ago.
Yeah, quietly solved it 20 years ago. Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive.
I love this topic.
Because we are looking at a highly specific briefing document today, and this is intended directly for you, the listener. If you're a leader or a marketer or, a prospective sponsor at a mission-driven company in the accessibility and access technology space, this is explicitly for you.
Yeah, we're really talking directly to you today.
Right. We are going to systematically unpack the sponsorship model for 2 sister publications, Top Tech Tidbits and Access Information News.
2 absolute heavyweights in this space.
Definitely. And crucially, we're going to explore how sponsoring these specific newsletters unlocks access to something called the PWD Media Co-op.
And that underlying architecture is really what makes this so compelling, because the source material outlines a structure that explicitly says, this isn't just an ad transaction.
Right.
It frames sponsorship as literally joining a 20-year-old community institution.
Okay, but I have to challenge that premise right out of the gate.
Sure, go for it.
Because literally every single marketing brochure I've seen in the last 10 years claims that buying an ad means you're, joining a community, right? Or starting a conversation.
Oh, yeah. The classic marketing spin.
Exactly. And usually it just means I'm handing over my corporate credit card and they're temporarily renting me a tiny sliver of their audience's attention.
Until the budget runs dry.
Right. So how does this model actually escape that whole vending machine dynamic?
Well, it escapes it by operating on this really unique 2-pronged ecosystem. It's not just a linear transaction. So first, you have the historically established weekly newsletter audience.
Okay.
Which operates with these frankly, unprecedented verification metrics. We'll get into those. But second, the sponsorship automatically grants you membership in the world's largest disability-specific media cooperative.
Wait, automatically?
Automatically. You aren't just buying, temporary pixel space on a screen. You're integrating into a trusted cooperative distribution network. And it operates on a totally different set of economic principles.
That is a massive structural claim. I mean, to see if that actually holds water for a company evaluating their media spend, we have to start at the foundation, right?
We have to look at the audience.
Exactly. Because an empty network, no matter how cooperatively structured it is, gives you 0 return on investment. So let's break down the 2 publications at the center of this.
Yeah, the best place to start is their operational DNA. Both Top Tech Tidbits and Access Information News share a really fascinating editorial process.
Right, the AI component.
Yeah, they utilize artificial intelligence to aggregate the raw data. But, and this is key, they rely strictly on human curation for the final product.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that. Because, why not just let the AI compile the whole newsletter and save on overhead?
Because in the accessibility space, context is everything. Empathy is everything. AI is incredibly efficient at casting this massive net across global internet traffic, right?
Sure, it can scrape everything.
Exactly. It scrapes every mention of assistive technology, policy updates, accessibility news. It handles all that raw data collection that would take a human team, like hundreds of hours a week.
Right. Yep.
But AI lacks judgment. It doesn't actually understand the nuanced lived realities of the disability community.
Oh, I see.
So human editors take that massive data pile, they filter out the noise, and they apply rigorous judgment to select what actually matters to a real person.
It's basically separating the signal from the noise. That makes a lot of sense. So let's look at the older sibling first. Top Tech Tidbits.
Yeah, Top Tech Tidbits is an absolute institution in this space. It was founded way back in 2004.
2004, that's practically prehistoric in internet years.
It really is. Surviving the digital publishing landscape for over 2 decades is notoriously difficult. So its longevity alone is a massive indicator of its utility. It is currently the world's leading not-for-profit access technology publication.
Now, when we say access technology, what's the specific editorial focus there?
It's intensely practical. The focus is on the tools themselves. So you're looking at assistive technology news, productivity tips, software walkthroughs, hardware reviews.
Like actual usable product updates.
Exactly. And it gets delivered every Thursday morning at exactly 6 a.m. Eastern Time.
Okay. And what's the reach on that?
Today, it reaches over 45,000 blind, low vision, deaf, hard of hearing, deaf-blind, neurodivergent, and disabled professionals.
That's a huge niche audience.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that includes educators, developers, enthusiasts, and all the organizations that serve them globally.
Got it. And then there's the newer publication, Access Information News.
Right. That one spun off recently in November of 2022. So while Top Tech Tidbits focuses on the hard technology and the practical tools,
Access Information News covers the broader stuff.
exactly, the broader informational landscape. So that's your policy changes, advocacy movements, legal developments, civil rights issues, things that directly impact the daily lives of people with disabilities.
And when did that one come out?
It publishes every Monday morning, also at 6 a.m. Eastern.
Okay, so what is the current reach for the policy-focused side?
It reaches over 44,000 subscribers.
Okay, so let me do the math. When a sponsor is evaluating the total footprint here, they're looking at a combined weekly audience of more than 89,000 dedicated professionals and community members.
Yes, over 89,000.
Okay, here is where I have to play the skeptic for a minute.
Go for it.
Because anyone who has ever managed a marketing budget, a list of 89,000 emails can mean absolutely anything.
Oh yeah, could be totally worthless.
Right. I could go online today and buy a raw list of 100,000 email addresses for literally pennies. But they're usually riddled with bot accounts, abandoned inboxes, or like people who subscribed during the Obama administration and haven't opened a single message since.
Yeah, the digital ghost.
Exactly. So how does a prospective sponsor know this isn't just a massive database of digital ghosts?
That is probably the single most important question a marketing director should ask. And the briefing document tackles it head-on through independent third-party verification.
Okay, how so?
In May of 2026, the publishers subjected both of these subscriber lists to a really rigorous cryptographic hashing process.
Okay, pause. Explain how that works for a listener who maybe isn't familiar with data auditing, because if they're just handing over their subscriber list to a third party, isn't that like a massive privacy violation?
It would be, absolutely.
Right.
Which is exactly why they use hashing.
Right.
So a hash is a one-way cryptographic function. Essentially, an algorithm scrambles every single email address into this unique, completely unrecognizable string of characters.
So it looks like gibberish.
Total gibberish. And you can't reverse engineer the hash to figure out the original email address. So that completely protects the subscriber's privacy.
Gotcha.
However, if two identical email addresses are put through that exact same algorithm, they produce the exact same string of gibberish, the exact same hash.
Oh, I see. So they take their scrambled list and compare it against someone else's scrambled list to find the matches, and nobody ever sees the actual private email addresses.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
So who did they verify against?
They hashed their subscriber lists and ran them against LinkedIn's global professional database.
Wow. Okay, LinkedIn.
Yeah. The goal was to prove how many of these newsletter readers were active, verified professionals actively participating in the workforce.
Then what were the numbers?
The results are pretty remarkable. For Top Tech Tidbits, out of 45,776 subscribers at the time of the audit, LinkedIn confirmed 38,910 of them as matching active member profiles.
Wait, 38,000 out of 45,000? That equates to, what, an 85% match rate?
Yes, exactly 85%. And Access Information News matched at that exact same 85% rate across its subscriber base.
Okay, to put that into perspective for a sponsor, we really need to compare that to the wider industry. Like, what is the baseline?
Right. The context is everything here.
If a major software company buys a premium B2B list from a top-tier vendor, what kind of match rate are they usually looking at?
Well, LinkedIn actually publishes its baseline standards for standard business-to-business email lists. Their published norm-like, what they consider a successful list, is a match rate of somewhere between 30 and 60%.
30 to 60%. And you're saying it frequently skews lower?
Oh, absolutely. The reality is it frequently skews closer to that 30% floor in a lot of industries.
That is staggering. A standard corporate mailing list only matches active professionals 30 to 60% of the time. I mean, why is the failure rate so massive in traditional B2B marketing?
It's because lists degrade continuously. Think about it. In the broader corporate world, people change jobs every 2 to 3 years.
Right, the email dies.
Exactly. Companies restructure, they go out of business. People use throwaway email addresses to bypass gatekeepers, or these stringent corporate firewalls simply swallow the emails before they even hit the inbox.
And keeping a list clean is just too much work.
It takes immense ongoing effort that most vendors just simply don't bother to expend. They'd rather just sell you the bulk numbers.
So an 85% match rate isn't just good, it's practically a structural anomaly. It suggests this community doesn't just casually read the content, they are deeply entrenched in this specific industry.
Yes. Accessibility professionals, advocates, developers, they clearly aren't bouncing from job to job outside the sector. They are building long-term careers here.
Right, and I imagine the behavioral metrics validate that, right?
Oh, they directly validate it. When you have a verified list of active professionals who view this content as vital to their livelihoods, their engagement fundamentally changes.
Let's hear the numbers.
The 12-month averages for these publications just completely defy standard marketing expectations. Top Tech Tidbits maintains a 46% open rate and a 42% click rate.
That's wild.
And Access Information News sits at a 47% open rate and a 34% click rate.
To really ground those numbers for anyone listening right now, most digital marketers throw a party if they can hit a 20% open rate on a standard campaign.
Yeah, 20% is considered a huge win.
So hitting nearly 50% consistently over a 12-month period, that is practically unheard of.
And just as importantly, the bounce rate, the percentage of emails that bounce back as undeliverable sits near a microscopic 1%.
Which proves the list is pristine.
Yeah.
But beyond the list hygiene, there has to be like a mechanical reason why email specifically performs this well for this demographic, right?
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of modern marketing budgets are shifting heavily towards social media feeds, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn feeds. Why is a traditional email newsletter generating this level of gravity?
Ah, that is such a great point. It comes down to digital accessibility and the cognitive load required to navigate different digital environments.
Right, because of screen readers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about how a blind or low-vision professional uses a screen reader on a standard modern social media platform. You've got infinite scroll feeds, auto-playing videos, constantly shifting layouts.
Pop-ups everywhere.
Yes, and poorly coded JavaScript. It makes navigating a social feed an incredibly frustrating, noisy experience.
So the screen reader is just trying to make sense of this chaotic, visually prioritized environment.
Precisely. Now compare that to a cleanly coded, text-based email newsletter. It is linear, it is predictable.
Ah, I see.
A screen reader can glide through semantic HTML headers with perfect efficiency. The format respects the user's time, and it respects their tools.
That makes perfect sense. So the audience flocks to these publications not just because the information is good, but because the actual delivery mechanism is fundamentally respectful of their access needs.
Exactly. It's a safe, efficient harbor.
Okay, so the audience is massive, they're independently verified, and they're fiercely engaged. But that naturally leads me to the financial question.
Let's talk money.
Because if a media entity controls an asset this valuable, the standard corporate maneuver is to monetize it aggressively, right? Squeeze every penny out of it. Yet the source material emphasizes a not-for-profit model.
Yes, both publications are operated by MindVault Solutions, Ltd., and they are structured strictly as not-for-profit projects.
Okay, I have to pause on the phrase not-for-profit, because in the B2B marketing world, that sometimes carries a bit of a stigma.
You mean it sounds amateur?
Yeah. A sponsor might hear that and assume it means, a passion project run out of someone's garage that might just fold next week.
That is a super common misconception, but the structure here is entirely different. MindVault Solutions is a very professional entity.
Right. The not-for-profit designation simply means that the organizational mandate is sustainability and community service. It's not about wealth extraction. The sponsorship revenue exists for one singular purpose.
Which is?
To fund the secure, efficient distribution of these newsletters to the community, completely free of charge.
Okay, but media distribution at scale isn't cheap. Servers, list management, human editors, security auditing, that takes real capital.
It definitely does.
So if they operate exactly at cost, what happens if there's an economic downturn? What if they don't sell enough sponsorships one month? Does the operation just halt?
No. And this is where the trust really gets cemented with sponsors. The briefing document explicitly notes that when sponsorship slots aren't full, MindVault Solutions covers the financial shortfall internally.
Wait, really?
Yes. The parent company acts as a guarantor. They absorb the operational costs so the publications continue without a single interruption.
They subsidize the gap. That is huge because that completely removes the desperation from the sales process.
If they don't have to squeeze sponsors just to keep the lights on, how does that affect the actual price a sponsor pays?
It creates an incredibly favorable economic environment for the sponsor.
Mm.
Because the goal is purely to cover operating costs, the rates are intentionally set far below commercial advertising standards.
How far below? What's the pricing formula?
It is remarkably transparent. They use a single mathematical formula. It is $50 per month for every 10,000 readers reached.
Okay, let's do the math again. If we look at the combined audience of over 89,000 readers, where does that formula put the cost today?
Currently, a full sponsorship package is exactly $200 a month.
$200? Are you serious?
Dead serious.
$200 for verified weekly access to nearly 90,000 highly targeted professionals. That's almost absurdly low.
It is, and it gets better because the pricing structure contains this mechanism called grandfathering, which is arguably the most valuable aspect of the entire contract.
Explain grandfathering in this context.
Well, the audience is actively growing, right? As the subscriber base expands, that $50 per 10,000 readers formula dictates that the standard rate will inevitably increase.
Sure, if it hits 100,000 readers, it goes to $500 or whatever the math is.
Right. However, once a sponsor locks in their rate, they keep that exact original rate for as long as they maintain their sponsorship continuously.
Wow. That is a massive hedge against inflation.
It really is.
So if a company signs on today at $200 a month, and 5 years from now the audience has exploded, and the new market rate is, say, $600 a month, the original sponsor is still only paying $200.
Correct. The institution rewards early loyalty rather than penalizing it.
That's the opposite of traditional media. Usually if a publication becomes twice as popular, your ad rates double.
Exactly. Here, your return on investment actively compounds over time. The longer you stay, the cheaper your cost per impression becomes.
But there is a natural hazard to that model, right?
What's that?
If the barrier to entry is that low and the ROI is that high, wouldn't the newsletters just quickly devolve into an absolute sea of advertisements? I mean, we've all opened those industry newsletters where you have to scroll past 15 giant flashing banners just to find one paragraph of actual news. It completely ruins the reader experience.
MindVault actually anticipated that exact problem, and they solved it through strictly enforced scarcity.
Oh, they cap it.
Yes. There is a hard cap of 24 sponsorship slots per publication, period. And it operates on a strict first-come, first-served basis.
Oh, wow.
Once those 24 slots are occupied, a waiting list is instituted.
That is incredibly smart. That protects the visual real estate. It ensures that the sponsor wall doesn't induce banner blindness.
Precisely. And for those 24 slots, they offer 3 really straightforward payment tiers.
Break those down for me.
Sure. A sponsor can pay monthly at $200, or they can choose the quarterly tier at $600.
Which is mathematically identical.
Right, it's the same base price. But the quarterly tier includes 1 free featured advertisement each quarter, which is a $200 standalone value just handed to you.
Nice.
Or you can choose the annual tier for $2,400. That includes 5 free featured advertisements throughout the year.
So the annual commitment basically hands the sponsor $1,000 in added value just for aligning with the publication's long-term stability.
Exactly.
Okay, that covers the structural economics beautifully. Now I want to shift into the tactical application. Because we know the audience is there, we know the price is radically accessible. But what is the actual anatomy of a sponsorship? Let's group the specific benefits outlined in the document and explore how they actually function for a marketing team on a weekly basis.
Okay, great. The document lists 8 concrete benefits. Let's start with what we might call the anatomy of a weekly impression. This encompasses the visual and textual presence a sponsor gets in every single issue.
Right, the brand association tools.
Exactly. So the first element is the sponsor wall brand logo. A sponsor's logo is displayed permanently on the publication's main homepage, and it sits near the top of every single weekly newsletter.
Maximum visibility.
Right. And the second element is a dedicated sponsor profile.
Yeah.
This isn't just a graphic, it's a full textual write-up explaining exactly who the company is and what mission they serve. It gives vital context to the logo.
But the third element in this group, this is the one that really shifts the paradigm for a marketing team, in my opinion. The weekly classified ad.
I agree. Why does that specific feature stand out to you so much?
Because it is inherently dynamic. I mean, in traditional media buys, whether it's a print magazine or a standard newsletter sponsorship, you generally operate on a waterfall methodology.
Meaning you're locked in.
Right. You hand over a piece of creative copy, and that exact same copy runs unchanged for 3 or 6 months until your contract expires. It just becomes visual white noise to the reader.
Yeah, they stop seeing it.
But here, the briefing document notes the classified ad can be updated weekly.
It allows for incredibly agile marketing.
Exactly. If I'm an access technology software developer, I can use that ad block to push a broader brand awareness message in week 1. But then in week 2, if we drop a major software patch, I can instantly pivot that copy to highlight the new features.
Right, you adapt on the fly.
And in week 3, I could use it to drive registrations for an upcoming webinar. It functions as a real-time communications channel that responds to my immediate business needs rather than acting as just a static billboard.
And that agility is supported by the next tier of benefits, which are purely tactical advantages. Sponsors receive a standing 50% discount on any sponsored placements.
What does that mean practically?
Well, if a brand wants to dominate a specific issue and purchase the highly visible sponsored tidbit or sponsored news article slots, being a recognized sponsor automatically cuts that cost in half.
That is a really powerful tool to have in reserve for like a major product launch.
Absolutely.
But moving beyond the immediate tactical plays, I want to look at the data and the longevity argument. Because marketing executives, they demand proof. And digital marketing is notoriously full of vendors who, let's be honest, grade their own homework.
Oh, we see that all the time. But the transparency mechanisms built into this model are rigorous. The primary tool here is free automated link tracking.
How does that work?
Every single link a sponsor runs, whether it's in their profile or their weekly classified ad, is automatically tagged with UTM parameters by the publisher.
For the listener managing the campaign strategy right now, how does that specifically eliminate the need to trust the vendor's internal reporting?
Well, UTM parameters are custom tags appended to the end of a URL. When a reader clicks that tagged link, the information bypasses the publisher's internal tracking entirely. It reports directly into the sponsor's own web analytics platform, like Google Analytics.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right. You aren't waiting for some glossy PDF report at the end of the month where the publisher might, creatively interpret what counts as a view.
Right, where a scroll past suddenly counts as an engagement.
Exactly. Instead, you open your own dashboard. You can see definitively exactly how many users clicked from top tech tidbits, how long they stayed on your site, and whether they actually converted into a lead or a sale. It is a true zero-trust verification model.
You own the raw data. That alone justifies the spend for a lot of data-driven teams. But there's another benefit in this category that acts as a sort of silent engine for long-term growth. The permanent SEO benefit.
The search engine optimization mechanics here are fascinating, especially given the history of the domain. How does the document describe the archive process?
Well, it states that even after a sponsorship term ends, like even if the sponsor completely ceases their financial support, their sponsor logo and profile remain permanently archived on the publication's website.
Permanent real estate.
Right. Now let's break down why that actually matters to Google's algorithm.
It comes down to domain authority and the concept of backlinks. Search engines evaluate the credibility of your website based largely on who is linking back to you.
Right, it's basically a digital voting system.
Yes, but not all votes are equal. If I start a blog today and link to your company, Google barely notices because my site has zero history. It has zero authority.
But Top Tech Tidbits has been operating continuously since 2004.
Exactly. It has over 2 decades of accumulated trust, relevance, and authority in the accessibility sector. Therefore, a permanent backlink from a domain with that level of historical gravity acts as a massive signal to search algorithms.
So it passes that juice onto the sponsor.
It effectively passes a portion of that accumulated authority directly to the sponsor's website.
It's structural, load-bearing support for your brand's digital presence. I always say most digital advertising is like scaffolding, right? It holds you up while you're paying for it, but the moment you stop paying, they tear the scaffolding down and your visibility just plummets.
That's a great analogy.
But this permanent archive means the investment continues to drive organic search rankings and referral traffic years after the final invoice is actually paid.
Which naturally generates the 7th benefit, which is community recognition. By underwriting a vital, free resource, a sponsor builds a huge reservoir of goodwill. You aren't just an advertiser interrupting their day. You are recognized as a sustaining pillar of their professional ecosystem.
Absolutely. All of which brings us to the final benefit, the absolute centerpiece of this entire strategy. The briefing document calls this the multiplier, and it fundamentally alters the mathematics of that $200 a month investment.
It is the hinge upon which the entire value proposition swings. Sponsoring top tech tidbits or access information news automatically grants the sponsor full membership in the PWD Media Distribution Co-op for the duration of their term.
I really want to spend significant time dissecting this because I imagine many prospective sponsors see the word co-op and just kind of gloss over it. They probably assume it's just a loose email chain of cross promotions.
Yeah, just some people sharing each other's links.
Exactly. So structurally, what actually is the Persons with Disabilities Media Distribution Co-op?
It is a highly formalized cooperative network. It comprises more than 24 blind, low vision, and disability-focused business leaders, advocates, publishers, and organizations.
Okay.
These independent entities recognize that fighting social media algorithms individually was incredibly inefficient. So they agreed to pool their separate social media channels into a single, unified distribution infrastructure.
So they aggregated their influence. How large is this combined footprint today?
Today, that cooperative network spans over 45 distinct social channels.
Wow.
Yeah. When a message is distributed through the co-op, it reaches a verified audience of more than 190,000 disability community readers with every single broadcast. It stands as the largest, highest quality disability-specific distribution network currently in existence.
That is a staggering jump in scale. We just spent 20 minutes validating an audience of 89,000 newsletter readers. Now, simply by being a sponsor, you are suddenly handed the microphone to an audience of 190,000 across dozens of platforms.
It's an incredible multiplier.
But here's the critical operational question. What stops my brand's message from looking like automated spam? I mean, if I just take one corporate press release and simultaneously blast it out across 45 different channels, it usually breaks.
Oh, it definitely breaks.
The formatting gets ruined, the image ratios are wrong, and users instantly recognize it as a low-effort bot blast, right?
That exact problem is why the co-op is managed centrally by MindVault Solutions, utilizing a process called native refactoring.
Native refactor. Okay, explain the mechanics of that.
Think of it like a highly specialized universal translator. Every social media platform have a different technical architecture and distinct cultural norms. A post that performs beautifully on LinkedIn will likely get its text heavily truncated on X, formerly Twitter.
Right.
The hashtag structure that works on Mastodon doesn't translate seamlessly to Facebook.
Uh,
And furthermore, in the accessibility space, the way you code alt text for images must be perfectly adapted to the specific API requirements of each platform. Otherwise, screen readers will completely fail to parse it correctly.
so I don't just hand the co-op a generic link and tell them to post it everywhere.
No, definitely not. As a member, you submit your core content once, your text, your link, and your image with the critical alt text. The team at MindVault Solutions takes that raw material and manually refactors it.
They manually adjust it?
Yes. They adjust the character counts, reformat the media dimensions, and optimize the metadata so that it feels completely native to Facebook, native to LinkedIn, native to Mastodon, and native to X.
So they do the localized translation for each specific platform.
Exactly. Once the content is natively optimized for all platforms, they use a centralized tool to schedule it across the entire 45-channel network simultaneously. The sponsor then receives a comprehensive notification confirming precisely what was posted, on which channels, and at what exact time.
One single submission becomes a globally coordinated, perfectly formatted broadcast.
That's the power of the co-op.
Okay, here comes the reality check. I am a co-op member because I bought the $200 newsletter sponsorship. But the manual labor required to refactor a post for 45 different channels, format the alt text, manage all those APIs, that is intense.
It takes real human hours.
Right. So if I want to trigger one of these 190,000 person broadcasts, what is the actual invoice for that service?
Well, because the co-op operates under the same not-for-profit ethos as the newsletters, they do not treat this as a profit center at all. They charge a strict, labor-only rate designed purely to cover the operational time of refactoring and scheduling.
Okay, so what is the number? Don't leave me in suspense.
It is currently $25 per post per date across the entire network.
Wait, $25 per platform or $25 total?
$25 total for the entire 45-channel broadcast.
I need to contextualize that for any marketing director listening right now. If you go onto LinkedIn's self-serve advertising platform today and try to target highly specialized accessibility professionals, a $25 budget might buy you 2, maybe 3 actual clicks.
Barely that.
It is essentially pocket change in the digital advertising ecosystem. And here, that same $25 buys a natively refactored, perfectly accessible message pushed to 190,000 targeted readers through channels they already deeply trust.
It represents an economy of scale that is virtually impossible to replicate through traditional commercial
It
channels.
really is.
The $200 newsletter sponsorship is effectively just the cover charge. It buys you massive weekly visibility on its own, but its true value is acting as the on-ramp to this cooperative infrastructure.
Okay, the theory is undeniably brilliant. The mathematics are overwhelmingly in the sponsor's favor. But as analysts, we know that theoretical reach and actual cash register ringing business results are two entirely different metrics.
Very true.
A massive network doesn't matter if the audience just ignores the sponsor. Does the briefing document provide concrete proof from the field that this mechanism actually generates revenue?
It does, thankfully. The document deliberately includes attributed testimonials from actual long-term sponsors who have navigated this exact transition. So we don't have to rely on the theoretical math. We can look at the historical receipts.
Let's examine those. Who is the first case study?
The first is John Panarese, the founder of MacFortheBlind.com. He is particularly relevant because he was an early adopter of this specific sponsorship model.
So he represents the long-term compounding data we were talking about. What was the impact on his business?
He credits the sponsorship with driving direct, measurable sales. His quote in the source text states, and I'm reading this here, "The number of clicks and the interest that has been derived from my sponsorship has been extremely impressive."
Awesome. What was he promoting?
He utilized the platform to promote audio tutorials and training services. And he noted that it didn't just cause a temporary spike in sales. It elevated his baseline visibility across the entire blindness community permanently.
He used the consistent repetition of the weekly classified ad to transition from an outsider pushing a product to an established fixture within the community.
Precisely. But the second testimonial offers an even deeper psychological insight, especially for leaders who are highly cynical about marketing claims. We have the story of Barry Schur from Guidelights and Gadgets.
The documented skeptic. This is my absolute favorite part of the briefing.
It's so good. Barry entered the sponsorship agreement admittedly unconvinced. He was highly skeptical that the return on investment would justify the expense. He kind of assumed it might just be another empty marketing promise.
But his experience inverted incredibly rapidly.
It did. The document notes that within 2 weeks of his sponsorship going live, he was generating a highly qualified lead or more per issue.
Yes. But the vital insight is why those leads suddenly materialized. Barrett realized a profound truth about audience psychology here. He discovered that the readers didn't actually need to be introduced to his company. They already knew who he was and what his company did.
That's the puzzle, isn't it? If they already knew his brand and they needed his gadgets, why hadn't they already purchased from him? Why did he need to buy a sponsorship to reach people who are already aware of him?
Because brand awareness is utterly distinct from brand validation. Knowing a vendor exists just isn't enough to make a consumer initiate a purchase, especially in a specialized technical space where trust is paramount.
Right, they need to feel safe buying.
Exactly. Seeing Barry's brand officially sponsoring Top Tech Tidbits acted as a trust trigger. The audience deeply trusts the editorial integrity of the publication. When they saw Barry financially supporting that institution, a psychological transfer of trust occurred.
It validated him to him.
Yes, that transfer of trust was the catalyst that prompted them to finally reach out and actually buy.
That completely changes how you evaluate the ROI. You aren't just buying reach. You are effectively borrowing the publication's 20-year reputation to validate your own standing in the market.
Exactly. Barry's final assessment was definitive, he stated. Top Tech Tidbits is the undisputed leader in providing timely notices of new and noteworthy happenings in the world of blindness technology.
It's a ringing endorsement.
And the common denominator in both case studies is clear. The audience isn't passive. They are highly engaged. They recognize the sponsors as allies, and they take immediate, measurable action.
But even with independent verification, incredibly favorable pricing, the co-op multiplier, and glowing testimonials, any competent executive listening right now is still going to have objections.
Oh, absolutely. It is our job to look for the structural flaws. Let's tackle the pragmatic pushbacks a prospective sponsor would naturally raise right here, right now.
Well, the authors of the source document actually anticipate the friction points. The most prominent objection from modern marketers usually revolves around the medium itself.
The email factor.
Right. The question is essentially, Isn't email inherently old-fashioned? Shouldn't a modern tech brand throw their entire budget into gaming SEO algorithms or chasing viral social media trends?
It's a completely fair question. Everyone is obsessed with the newest video platform. Email feels like a relic from the late 90s, so why double down on the inbox?
Because the data invalidates the assumption for this specific demographic.
Yeah.
We return to those behavioral metrics we discussed. Open rates of 46 to 47%. Email may be old-fashioned in consumer retail, but here it is the overwhelmingly preferred, trusted conduit for professional information.
And we discussed the mechanics of that earlier. The screen reader optimization makes an email newsletter vastly superior to an infinite scroll, poorly coded web feed. The audience demands efficiency, and email actually delivers it.
Right.
But furthermore, isn't the whole premise of that objection a false choice?
How so?
Because if a sponsor thinks they need to abandon email to chase social media reach, they are completely forgetting the co-op. You don't have to choose between the stability of the inbox and the massive scale of social algorithms.
Oh, right. You get both.
The sponsorship gives you the 89,000 verified inboxes, and it hands you the keys to the 190,000-person social media network. You are conquering both domains simultaneously for the exact same initial investment.
That is precisely the strategic advantage. Now, the second common objection involves internal corporate accounting. The language of not-for-profit and underwriting a community resource can really confuse finance departments.
They don't know what bucket to put it in.
Right. They ask, is this an advertising expense or is this a philanthropic charitable donation?
So how does a sponsor reconcile that internally?
By recognizing that it is genuinely both, and that duality is actually its greatest strength. Operationally, you are underwriting a free community resource, fulfilling corporate social responsibility and mission-driven objectives.
This looks great for the brand.
Exactly. But functionally, you are securing highly measurable hard dollar ROI. You are tracking UTM clicks, securing permanent SEO backlinks, and driving direct sales, just like a traditional ad buy. It is a marketing expense that simultaneously achieves philanthropic outreach.
That makes a lot of sense. The third objection is usually about risk mitigation, like what happens when the macroeconomic climate shifts? If I sponsor for 2 years, build up all this momentum, and then my budget gets slashed and I have to pause my spend, does my brand just vanish from the ecosystem overnight? Do I lose everything I built?
No, and this ties directly back to the archive benefit we discussed. Because your sponsor profile and logo are permanently archived on the site, the structural support remains.
It doesn't disappear.
Right. You stop getting the weekly newsletter placement, obviously, but your historical presence continues to pass domain authority to your website. The digital infrastructure you built doesn't collapse just because the monthly payments stop.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most cynical objection, and I'm sure you hear this one.
Let's hear it.
If this audience is verified at 85% by LinkedIn, with open rates double the industry average, and the package includes access to a massive global distribution co-op, why on earth is it only $200 a month?
The too good to be true argument.
Exactly. If something sounds too good to be true in business, it usually is. What is the catch here?
The catch is simply that the publisher is actively choosing community sustainability over corporate profiteering. It is remarkably affordable by deliberate design.
It's intentional.
Completely intentional. MindVault Solutions operates these entities specifically to serve the disabled community. By setting the rates, utilizing that transparent 50 per 10,000 readers formula, they ensure the barrier to entry remains accessible for small, innovative, mission-driven companies, not just massive tech conglomerates.
So it levels the playing field.
Exactly. They don't need to price gouge sponsors because the parent company is willing to absorb the overhead. It's a feature of their ethos, not a trap.
Okay, when you synthesize all these separate mechanisms, the sheer cryptographically verified scale of the audience, the transparent and grandfathered pricing model, the massive reach multiplier of the co-op, and the permanent SEO architecture, you really begin to see a completely different paradigm for digital marketing.
You are looking at a marketing lifecycle that actively compounds over time, rather than degrading the moment you look away.
Let's summarize exactly why this compounding effect is so vital for a brand's long-term legacy in the accessibility sector.
First, we have the principle of trust through repetition. The Barry Shearer case study proved that appearing at the top of a trusted newsletter every week transforms your logo from a cold corporate trademark into a validated, familiar presence in the professional's daily routine.
It builds that vital trust trigger.
Second, the structural data continues to earn. The SEO value of your permanent archive grows richer and more authoritative, the longer it exists on the internet.
Third, the co-op shatters the traditional limits of audience building. You are no longer constrained by the slow, agonizing process of building your own follower count from scratch. Every single campaign you launch can instantly ride the infrastructure of 45 established channels to reach nearly 200,000 targeted readers.
It's an instant megaphone.
And fourth, your financial loyalty is explicitly rewarded. Through the grandfathered pricing, you lock in today's rate, meaning as the network's value scales up, your actual cost per impression continuously drives down.
It fundamentally aligns the success of the publication with the financial success of the sponsor. It's a true partnership.
So for the leader listening right now who is ready to step out of the B2B vending machine model we talked about at the beginning, what is the mechanical next step? We know there is a strict cap of 24 slots per publication, so action requires a degree of urgency.
The immediate next step is simply to initiate a dialogue with the publishers to check the current availability. If a sponsor is primarily interested in reaching the access technology side of the audience through TopTech Tidbits, they can email the publisher directly at publisher@toptechtidbits.com.
Or visit the website, right?
Yes, or visit their digital hub at toptechtidbits.com and navigate to the sponsorship packages page to view the live inventory.
And for those wanting to align with the policy, advocacy, and broader information side,
For Access Information News, the direct email contact is sponsorships@accessinformationnews.com, or they can review the details directly at accessinformationnews.com by clicking on their sponsorship packages page.
and if they want to deeply investigate the exact technical mechanics of the 45-channel network,
They can read the full operational breakdown of the PWD Media Distribution Co-op by visiting at-newswire.com/PWD-MDC.
well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the prospective sponsor, with a final thought to mull over as you allocate your resources for the coming year.
Yeah, this is important to think about.
Think about what it practically means to build a marketing foundation based entirely on verified community trust and shared cooperative infrastructure, rather than endlessly chasing black box social media algorithms that just change the rules on you without warning.
It's exhausting chasing the algorithms.
It is. What happens to the legacy of your brand in the accessibility space when your advertising budget actually builds and sustains a vital community institution instead of just renting a fleeting, temporary moment of attention?
That is the essential strategic question. In an era completely defined by fleeting digital noise and decaying lists, integrating into a permanent supportive ecosystem is the ultimate competitive advantage. You transition from being an advertiser demanding attention to being an ally providing value.
It is the difference between kicking a vending machine, hoping for a quick return, and investing in a structural foundation that will genuinely support your brand's growth for decades.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.